Conversations from the front lines of recruiting. This is Hireside Chats. Join us as we delve into the world of recruitment and explore the latest trends, challenges, opportunities, and insights from the best in the business. Get inspired by industry veterans and discover the secrets to building powerful talent functions from their experiences. Whether you're a CEO, a seasoned HR professional, a growing business looking to scale, or someone just starting in the field, there's something for everyone. Ready for the ultimate recruitment power-up? Let's go!
Hello, this is your host SatJ, and welcome to another episode of Hireside Chats, a Diamondpick exclusive podcast that brings together insights, news, and views from the front lines of recruiting. Listen on as we discuss a topic that has taken the world by storm. Picture a scenario where HR professionals are equipped with AI-powered assistants to significantly simplify recruitment processes. Imagine a situation where recruiters no longer have to write job requirements. Imagine AI assistants serving as career mentors, guiding candidates through their professional development journey. This is the future of HR, and the future is here. Generative AI is reshaping HR with over 50% of the working population already using it in some form or the other. What is truly fascinating is the speed at which this technology is being adopted. In 2022, when ChatGPT was released, in just 5 days, it got over 1 million users. And all this is just the tip of the iceberg. Generative AI has the power to transform the very foundation of recruitment. In today's episode, we have Sriram Iyer, founder and CEO of HR Tech, a firm with a vision to empower HR teams to embrace data-driven and tech-savvy approaches. Sriram is a seasoned human resources management specialist with a deep understanding of HR technology and expertise in supporting enterprises to drive workforce and workplace transformation and shape the future of work in HRM. Sriram will share with us his perspective on the power of harnessing generative AI to transform talent management and how we must prepare for the inevitable. Hello, Sriram, and welcome to Hireside Chats.
Thank you very much, SatJ, for having me as part of your show. Really excited and nervous too, talking to the ex-boss.
Okay, so Sriram, as technology advances at an unprecedented pace and HR professionals are faced with new challenges and opportunities, there's been so much buzz in the recent months about generative AI, and people seem to be ricocheting between wonder at the potential of these tools and fear of the risks that come with it. So why don't we just start off with what, according to you, is so different about generative AI, and what do you think is behind all of this disruptive potential?
Satish, so traditionally AI was a very mysterious, obscure technology for most of us, specifically the HR teams. It was in the traditional realm of data engineers, data scientists, and experts who completely understood AI, ML, and deep learning. But generative AI is all about the ability to generate new content with simple prompts in a matter of a few seconds. And that's opened up a broad user base beyond the tech community. So in traditional programming, as you know, you would define the rules and AI would execute the same. Whereas right now, with recent developments in NLP and large language models, they can easily respond to human language and provide you content, ideas, and various relevant inputs without knowing coding. And that, I think, is the disruptive power of generative AI, putting AI right in the hands of every user out there.
So in today's digital world, traditional office-based HR is becoming less relevant, and to survive, human resources teams need to get on board with HR tech and generative AI to streamline processes, enhance creativity, and provide better candidate experiences. And I know, Sriram, you've been doing quite a lot of work in this space, be it in Singapore or the other Asia Pacific geographies where you and your organization are doing a lot of work. So why is there so much buzz around the HR technology area, especially in Asia, according to you?
We've always traditionally bet more on Asia Pacific and the Middle East region because the opportunity for growth is really significant, Satish. So if you look at it, traditionally, Asia has lagged behind the Western world in terms of tech adoption. So the opportunity for growth is always phenomenal. So if you look at India, for example, it leapfrogged from 2G, 3G to 5G much faster than the Western world. And that's exactly what is going to happen in the world of HR tech, right? The HR teams traditionally in Asia Pacific have been lagging behind in technology adoption. And that's where we see a lot of potential. Not just that, if you look at it, over 50% of the global workforce is in Asia. I mean, and large populations, especially split between China, India, and Indonesia. So the opportunity for future transformation is going to be right here in Asia Pacific. The other key element that we are increasingly seeing is with remote teams, with virtual and hybrid teams spread across multiple geographies. The HR processes are becoming really, really complex. Different legislations, different labor laws, and all of this is contributing to the necessary adoption of tech by HR teams. What is also happening is the CEOs traditionally had a different lens while looking at the HR teams. But now they are under immense pressure on cost optimization and productivity, HR teams are no more spared. So HR teams are to now start talking tech and data, which is again adding to the entire pressure on HR teams to adopt technology. But what I think is the big reason why Asia was going to be the hub for HR technology is that the cost of product development in Asia is really insignificant when you compare to the cost of product development in the Western world. And that is why you're seeing unicorns. And last year alone, you had 22 unicorns from India. And you are going to see a lot more HR tech unicorns. Apart from Diamondpick, we haven't had too many HR tech unicorns, but I think Diamondpick is the beginning of a long line of unicorns that we'll see in the HR tech space from Asia. So the cost of innovation, cost of product development being insignificant in Asia is going to drive the onslaught of more HR tech product companies from Asia Pacific. All of these, so multiple aspects, the complex HR process, growing workforce, increasing HR complexity, mobile internet penetration, and finally the cost of innovation and product development being insignificant. All of this is collectively ensuring that Asia will be the future hub for HR technology.
Okay. So, I mean, HR function and the people in HR have always been labeled traditionalists, considering that the function is a touch and feel function. So, do you really think generative AI will completely alter recruiting as we know it? And what specific HR processes or functions do you believe will benefit the most from implementation of generative AI, Sriram? And it will help if you can give us some examples that you have come across dealing with a lot of these HR startups in your tech platform.
Sure. So I have had the opportunity to actually view a lot of demos over the past 3 months from various HR tech providers in Asia Pacific on how they have been leveraging generative AI and ChatGPT into their product capabilities. Phenomenal. The kind of opportunities that we are seeing that are going to come up is really mind-blowing. I'll give you some specific examples. I've had the opportunity to see Ripple Hire, Zobin, a lot of the product providers from India who are essentially bringing in these technologies. So let me give you some specific examples. Number one, traditionally, Satish, we know when the hiring managers give us mandates, there is no job description, there is no specification. It's probably just a one-liner, right? And you can't go to a candidate with a one-liner job description. And lo and behold, we now have ChatGPT. We can essentially make any applicant tracking system, recruitment automation software more sophisticated. At the click of a button, you just mention some basic details. It can churn out detailed job descriptions, not just detailed job descriptions, but it is very, very adherent to diversity, equity, inclusivity, and belonging. So you have DEIB focused job descriptions that are churned out. You go back to the hiring manager and say, hey, look, does this JD really match your expectations? And obviously the hiring manager is going to be thrilled. That's just low hanging fruit, I would say. Imagine assessments. Earlier, when you looked at assessments, the product providers really struggled on saying, hey, I have a database of 1,000 questions on Python and R, and it was tested. And that was the same question that was administered to all the candidates. Now, what is happening is adaptive assessments are coming in. Every candidate, based on the questions that they answer, the questions that are going to be thrown to them back will be at a higher order based on their ability to answer these questions. So adaptive assessments are really turning around the entire prospect of identifying the right fit candidate rather than just administering the same set of questions to everyone. Number three, if you look at it, companies today are struggling on offer acceptance from candidates. I have had the opportunity to see some crazy software which can actually customize videos from the CEO of an organization to every single offered candidate. Imagine if I were to send a video to you saying, hey, SatJ, you've been offered, we are looking to onboard you onto Diamondpick, right? That mass personalization is now completely possible with chatGPT. Onboarding. We have seen that during the pandemic, every company struggled on virtual hybrid onboarding. And recruitment teams and HR teams, which were used to in-person onboarding, made a mess of it. So imagine now having a virtual buddy or a virtual assistant that can cater to every single new joiner that comes to the organization. And onboarding is going to be as seamless as possible. So be it candidate engagement, be it assessments, offer acceptance, onboarding, the nightmare for recruiters is to speak to 60, 70 candidates in a day and talking to them, screening them. Imagine now I can have generative AI enabled bot, which can speak to all these candidates in a call or in a WhatsApp, seamlessly automating the entire process. So if you look at just one aspect of recruitment, generative AI has really made the job of the recruiter much, much simpler.
So, Sriram, you did give some examples of employee experience and how you can personalize experience using generative AI. So, in your experience, how have organizations used the HR technology to enhance employee experience? One is to create a great experience for people, candidates who are coming into the organization, but their own employees, have they used generative AI effectively to enhance their experience? And if there are any examples that you can quote, that will be very useful to our listeners.
Absolutely. The first step in the entire process, let's take a strategic workforce planning, Satish. In my personal opinion, the mess that we are seeing right now of layoffs is really happening because somewhere HR and business teams were not aligned in terms of workforce planning, and that led to this entire aspect. So let's take strategic workforce planning. Today, generative AI or ChatGPT can help identify skills gap. They can go through the job descriptions, resumes, employee profiles. It can compare the required skills with the available skills, identify areas where the specific candidate is lacking, and suggest ways to bridge the gaps. So fundamentally, skills gap has become much more easier to manage for the workforce planning team with this. Workforce forecasting, if you look at it, generative AI can analyze big data, industry trends, market reports, can identify what your competitors are hiring globally, what your competitors are hiring within the single market, what kind of skill sets do you have within the organization right now, what kind of skill sets do you need to hire in the next 3 to 5 years. It can do all of these, provide you a future workforce needs predicted to the closest aspect. Not just that, it can even give you recommendation on whether you should have a buy strategy of talent acquisition or a build strategy focusing on talent development. So all of this can help HR teams meet future demands, reduce all this talent shortage, and optimize resource allocation aspects. Take, for example, talent management, high performance. This was always a very gray area for most companies. Now, today, generative AI can analyze performance data. It can assess leadership capabilities of the candidate using adaptive assessments. It can suggest development programs. It can suggest mentorship opportunities for them, the career paths, simulate scenarios for them to develop their high potential. It can provide guidance on career transitions. All of this can be provided in a very customized manner. And the biggest of all, in my opinion, and where we are seeing a lot of traction, is internal talent marketplace. Traditionally, every company would go out to hire for talent. But with generative AI enabled internal talent marketplaces coming in, as an individual employee, I am able to assess what my current skill sets are, what the skill sets required by the new job is, identify the skills gap, help me transition from this role to that role. All of this can be done in a personalized manner. That's just on that. Imagine performance management. Today, what is happening is generative AI, ChatGPT is coming into performance management software so that it can individually help employees on setting smart goals, clarifying objectives, helping them on tracking and monitoring their performance. It can help them in their performance review preparation with the bosses or with the clients. The traditional aspect of check-in reminders, which used to be done by the recruitment teams, are now done by these. Employee surveys is always a nightmare for every organization. But what has happened right now is the sentiment analysis, which you can just do with the web browser version of ChatGPT. Sentiment analysis has been taken to the next level, and your employee survey feedback has got a lot more robust. And then my biggest aspect is, every company only talks about physical wellness. They do an online Zumba session and think that they have taken care of their employees. But today we have to move from a physical or a mental wellness to a holistic wellness. This data-driven wellness approach is now being enabled by generative AI. So what is happening today is ChatGPT is able to analyze big data with inputs from the insurance data, with leave and absenteeism data, performance management data, organizational network analysis. It can take in data from all of these, put together, analyze, and proactively identify people at risk of mental health and offer support. So I think that the role of the HR team is to be proactive in offering support to employees who might need it, rather than being reactive, which is the case today. And then we could talk about talent development, compensation planning, shared services. In all of these, if you see, we have examples of how ChatGPT and other generative AI can really make the entire employee experience being taken to the next level.
Thanks, Sriram. Like you mentioned, there are several practical examples how generative AI has significantly personalized and streamlined the entire HR lifecycle process. And according to a very recent survey and some statistics that I read, 85% of the HR leaders believe that generative AI has a potential to significantly improve their employee experience and engagement. You did cover the entire employee lifecycle, but there's one area that I just wanted to check if you have had an opportunity to understand and realize how generative AI has impacted, is in the space of inclusivity and diversity. Do you think generative AI can contribute in creating a more inclusive and diverse workforce? And what challenges should organizations be aware of in this context?
So I just retrace back to the first statement that I made, that Asia is still lagging behind. We are still talking about diversity. And if we talk about diversity, it's predominantly gender diversity in most companies or most countries in Asia Pacific. People have also started talking about which is the inclusivity part of it. But if you look at the Western world, they've moved to diversity, equity, inclusivity, belonging, and even justice. So while justice might definitely seem to be a far-fetched theme at this point of time, if you look at it in each of these aspects, generative AI has been able to make a substantial difference. If you take diversity, it's not just about gender diversity, it's about age, race, nationality, orientation, educational and work experience background. Now, so what we realize is all of this can be fixed if you do the right planning and hiring right in an organization, right? So what has happened is, today all the software that I talked about are looking at deploying generative AI in a big way to make it DAIB friendly. So in fact, there are now HR technology software that are focused only on diversity and inclusivity. That's coming in. Their role is to ensure that not just your recruitment process, your performance management process, your employee engagement and communication, your learning and development, right? Your operations, compensation. I mean, if you look at it, compensation, we have talked about pay equity, of the gender pay difference that happens. In all of these aspects, we have examples of how generative AI can actually be deployed to identify discrepancies, provide course corrections to the organizations. So I think this is a space where you will see a lot more significant impact in the coming years, because this is an area where Asia Pacific is definitely lagging behind, but we need to soon catch up with the rest of the world.
Thanks for that, Sriram. So HR, like you rightly said, has evolved from a standard one-size-fits-all process to one which is more personalized and centered around the quality of employee experience. And modern HR, as well as modern HR professionals, must deeply understand how work will evolve in the future organization, where the work and the worker are truly augmented by artificial intelligence. So this brings me to ask you a very important and pertinent question. How can HR professionals prepare themselves to thrive in this digital age? And in your experience, are you seeing our HR fraternity equipping themselves to deal with this big change? And if yes or no, what is your answer to that problem or challenge?
Okay, as a HR professional for over 25 years, my biggest complaint has been that HR teams have not been adopting tech and data as much as they should, right? They have always been focused on the empathy aspect and less on data and tech. But right now, things are really changing. And we see a substantial need for no more T-shaped skills focus, but a V-shaped skills focus. Earlier, if you know, Satish, that you would be specialized in one area of HR and generalist in all other areas. But today, there is a need for the HR teams to have a V-shaped focus, which means increasing level of expertise in multiple areas, multiple adjacency areas, and deep expertise in one or two areas. This is a first significant change that is coming into the life cycle of the HR professional. The strong V-shaped focus and no more T-shaped. The other thing is, we have identified 9 essential HR skills of the future. Now, I help my college in recruitment of new students into the program. And then when I have been working with, the first question that I ask is, why do you want to take up human resources as a profession? The first thing is, they all talk about how they like interacting with people, right? So, but things have evolved. We now have 9 essential HR skills of the future. And there are 3 aspects which are really critical. Number 1 is a data-driven approach to decision making. So you need to be very strong in people analytics, which means if you are going to be strong in people analytics, you need to have a strong base of statistics. But the very reason a lot of people take up HR is because they are not comfortable with mathematics and statistics, right? So data-driven decision making is number 1. Number 2 is tech savviness. Number 3 is a strong analytical thinking. No more gut-based thinking, but analytical data-driven approach. Another key aspect, essential skill, is design thinking. If we talk about employee experience, a key aspect that HR teams should focus on, how do you leverage design thinking in every aspect across the employee life cycle? We have had challenges when clients say, can you show us HR case studies on design thinking? We struggle. We have a lot of business cases on, even right now on generative AI, we've had great cases on how Pfizer is adopting it, how Unilever is adopting it. In fact, Unilever used generative AI to come up with their latest Axe brand, right? And how Pfizer is leveraging generative AI in drug discovery. But we are again struggling on use cases and case studies for design thinking for HR. Storytelling is becoming an essential aspect. So today, the ability to communicate your data into a strong story for the leadership is something that HR teams are again missing. So there are 9 essential HR skills of the future we have come about, Satish. And I think these are the aspects which HR team should start focusing on rather than the traditional areas.
Got it. Thanks. So before we conclude, Sriram, we have a customary rapid fire round for you. So I'll ask you the questions and I request you to keep your answers brief and to the point, like you've always been. So my first question to you is, what was the first task you attempted using ChatGPT or generative AI?
Okay, it was obviously the first thing of reviewing all the emails for grammatical errors.
Okay. One HR tech trend you will place your bets on?
Oh, that's going to be strategic workforce planning. Essentially, that and data-driven mental wellness. These are two areas where you will see increasing focus of generative AI getting adopted, because these are the essential needs of the HR function.
One thing to keep in mind while implementing tech in any HR process?
Okay, I have had a lot of my clients celebrate. We've gone live with a Workday implementation and there's champagne bottles popping. But I think change management and HR tech implementation is a journey and not a destination. So going live is a great milestone, but I think that's just the beginning of the journey. User adoption, making complete course corrections, understanding the culture of the organization. All know culture eats strategy for breakfast, but we still don't factor in culture in the HR tech implementation. So I think the fact that we need to understand that going live is just a milestone, but the entire HR tech implementation and change management is a journey. That's the main aspect that I would highlight.
We spoke so much about technology, but can you think of one core HR competency that you believe technology cannot replace?
Okay, I'm a firm believer of technology actually learning a lot more like humans and can definitely start matching human capabilities. So maybe I would say at this point of time, I still think the human element of understanding the empathy aspect, I think humans do it much better than machines. So I think that is where we score over. The recruiters can still focus on outsourcing the screening function to AI, but the candidate interaction, selling the role, selling the organization, understanding the key motivation, I think that needs to be with the recruitment team. Similarly, in all other functions, you can automate the employee communication, performance management function, but the aspect of interacting with employees to make their jobs much better, providing more security, these soft elements, I think, are much better provided by the HR teams right now.
Great. Thank you very much, Sriram. With that, we come to the end of this episode. I really appreciate your insightful inputs on the transformative power of generative AI in the world of HR and talent acquisition. And for all those who tuned in, thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Until next time, stay curious about the ever-evolving world of HR technology. Join us next time for another episode as we continue to bring you the latest and best from the recruitment world. Find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Don't miss a single episode. Subscribe to Hireside Chats today, and don't forget to leave a review or share on your socials to help us reach as many ears as possible. Stay tuned, and once again, Sriram, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Satish, for having me on your show.